This is a 1999 1-ounce silver Libertad. Considered a key modern date. Second lowest mintage of the series at 95,000 coins. Under directional light, the luster appears strong. Fields look orderly. Frost remains intact. At arm's length, this coin presents very well. But grading decisions are not made at arm's length. They're made under magnification. And at 5 power magnification, the margin for error narrows dramatically. Surface activity becomes visible. Focal zones carry weight. And silence, or the lack of it, becomes decisive. Based on initial surface review, I believe this coin has a solid probability of mint state 67 and a reasonable chance at mint state 68. I don't think mint state 69 is a realistic potential for this coin. So today, we're going to test that assessment using the 5x grading framework that we showed in our last video. And then in the return episode, we will measure expectation against outcome. That comparison is where real grading skill develops. Under 5x magnification, I begin in the open field near the date. Now, what I'm evaluating for is abrasion frequency and what kind of surface activity we see. Now, notice how the reflectivity breaks slightly as the light moves. I see some maybe very light micro ticks. They're shallow. They're relatively distributed. What I do not see are deep contact marks. I do not see any slide lines or scuffing. But the field is not silent. And it's silence at 5 power that will define mint state 69. This surface does show some activity. Not severe, but present. And it's activity, not catastrophe, that separates mint state 68 from mint state 69. In my opinion, this coin supports high mint state, but it does not support elite mint state. Now, moving upward, the pattern repeats. We do have one slightly more significant imperfection right there under the A, but the imperfections and interruptions are light and pretty evenly distributed. Again, we don't see any clustering, and it's clustered marks that create focal dominance. When the marks are distributed like this, it's more just general activity. This is general activity. The consistency across multiple field regions would help anchor this grade. And in my opinion, this reinforces mint state 67. And with the one exception of that mark right under the A, I think 68 is still viable. But I believe it removes mint state 69 out of consideration, at least realistically. Okay, now let's move in a little closer on the angel's chest. Okay. The angel's chest is a primary focal zone. So marks here carry a higher grading weight. Now, I'm maybe observing a little bit of frost texture disruption, maybe a couple of very isolated contact points. Again, none are deep, none are severe, but they are present. And even a light focal zone interruption reduces mint state 69 potential. For mint state 68, tolerance exists as long as that interruption is isolated. And that's kind of what I see here. Light isolated interruption. Again, in my opinion, this reinforces mint state 67 and sustains mint state 68 as a possibility. All right, let's look at the hair detail. The highest strands actually are showing pretty good detail. The luster remains intact. I see no friction or contact marks. If anything, it might be a little bit of strike softness rather than wear. But even if it's a little bit of a weaker strike, a soft strike alone does not prevent a mint state 68. But combined with light field activity, it likely prevents elite classification. But the luster continuity remains strong. So to me, the reverse presents as a strong upper mint state surface. We're looking at very light but consistent activity, very minor focal zone interruption, no severe contact, and in my opinion, that combination comfortably supports a mint state 67 potential. It also keeps mint state 68 as something that's within reach, but it would eliminate mint state 69. All right, now let's apply the same discipline to the obverse. Okay, so in the open field near the motto at the top, the story remains consistent. We've got maybe a couple of light scattered micro ticks, a couple of toning spots, no deep abrasions, no drag lines. Reflectivity maybe breaks a little bit under tilt, but the abrasion density on the obverse basically measures what I see on the reverse. And when graders see similar activity on both sides, that indicates balance. And balance supports grading stability. To me, that consistency reinforces what I believe is the expected range, 67 to 68. Now, let's check out the eagle's breast. All right, well, within the eagle's breast and the feather detail, the surface remains orderly. I see nothing really that stands out. We've got maybe minor ticks and abrasions here and there, but they're distributed. Again, no clustering. And in a complex relief design like this, ticks and abrasions are going to be much more forgiving than on an open field. And as a matter of fact, I just saw a tick right here that I didn't see before, that again, I don't consider that to be anything significant. And if you're not looking real carefully, you won't even see that. So I don't observe any kind of displaced metal. I don't see any kind of structural damage. Again, in my opinion, this definitely supports a high-end MS67 assignment. And I don't really see anything that would significantly contradict a potential for MS68. I'm not suggesting it'll get there, but I don't see anything that automatically would disqualify it. So we need to keep in mind that when considering grades at this level, what we're looking at is probabilistic. The jump from MS67 to MS68 is meaningful. The jump from MS68 to 69, that's exponential. And that exponential jump demands exponential surface quiet. This coin is strong, but strong and elite are not identical. Based on the very light abrasion frequency, focal zone weight, and surface balance, MS67 carries a solid probability in my opinion. MS68 carries a reasonable probability, while MS69 remains probably unlikely. But given the very balanced surface profile of this coin, this will get submitted for grading. I'm not expecting a MS69. I will submit this with an expectation for anywhere between MS67 and 68. In the return episode, we will revisit these exact focal zones and measure our expectation against the actual outcome, because that comparison matters far more than the actual number itself.